Episode 2 of Picard takes us to the past. 14 years ago, we're told, when the plans were underway to build the fleet of ferries needed to help the Romulans.
Good morning, plastic people.
Good morning, Mr. Pincus.
Are there any small children you wish us to terrify? These synthetics are helping with the job today. First contact day. In other words, a day when there's only a skeleton crew working because everyone else is off having a grand old time, except for these poor schmucks. But at least there's someone who's worse off.
Hey, Fade, I got one for you. What's brown and sticky?
Something that clearly rolls downhill, at least as far as the synth should be concerned. However, during the lunch break, the synth working with this particular group activates and then heads over to a panel. And once realized by the group that their robot is screwing with their systems and they try to intervene, it begins with the neck snapping and then gets worse, grabbing some kind of laser tool to just blast everybody else. This case of the brown and sticky stuff hitting the fan is all part of the synthetic uprising that we'd heard about, and it ends with the one we've been following shooting itself in the head. So if this was for freedom, it sure seems to have a funny way of going about it. After the titles, we're back to the present, where Picard and his two Romulan friends go over the footage from the attack and discover that Picard is the only one visible. No dodge and no Romulan attackers. These two aren't just housekeepers, they're actually former members of the Tal Shiar, and she insists that this could only be the Zhat Vash, basically the secret organization that was inside the Tal Shiar, holders of a secret so mind-breaking that knowing it could drive you mad, like why Into Darkness ever got made.
When I was a new recruit, one of my first handlers
My mother,
got drunk on Romulan ale
my father.
and let slip that at the heart of the Zhat Vash mission was a deep, unassuageable loathing.
Loathing of whom?
Not whom. What?
So far, my guess has not been ruled out. She explains what this might be about. Romulan culture has no artificial intelligence of any kind whatsoever, and it's because of the Zhat Vash. To verify, they had to dodge his apartment and use some illegal Romulan tech to reconstruct the events based on the forensic evidence. Basically, Sherlock Holmes if he were an app. But the invaders cover their tracks too well, so the only choice is to try to find something that they missed. And sure enough, the fact that Dodge and Soji are twins lets them track Soji to an off-planet location, and yes, Soji is indeed still on the Borg cube, and has already hooked up with Narek.
Are we allowed to be sleeping together, or is that a secret?
Very much the latter.
Is everything Romulans do a secret?
If I told you, I'd have to kill you. Back at Chateau Picard, his old friend, the medical officer on the Stargazer, stops by to discuss the results of Picard's checkup, what with being blown up and all that. Close range to explosions is really not advisable to a man within a stone's throw of his 100th birthday. But that's not the issue, believe it or not. It's not often that you hear being blown up is the least of your problems, but it is. Remember way back in All Good Things when Picard was moving back and forth through time and showed this future 25 years from then? Well, that's approximately now. And while some things are different, Troy is alive rather than Data, the Enterprise D Mark II is nowhere to be seen, and most significantly, Picard is wearing an entirely different hat, there are some things that are still the same. The Romulans are struggling for one, and for the purpose of the immediate conversation, Picard's brain abnormality. Completely losing his cool during a major interview is a good example of it acting up, and Weird Dreams is another. Based upon the scans, it looks like Picard might not live much longer. But that's no reason he can't be certified fit to fly. So, the doctor says, yeah, okay, fine, you can go out into space, what do I care? And Picard happily heads to Starfleet for a modest proposal, and it doesn't even require eating babies. Though it does require having to get through the lobby.
May I have your name, please, sir?
Oh, Picard. P-I...
F-U-C-K-U. Now, give me a badge or read a bloody history book. After that, he heads up to see Admiral Clancy and explains about Bruce Maddox and the androids and the Romulans, and so asks if he can please be temporarily reinstated to conduct just one last mission. Take a small ship and crew and go and investigate this, and he's even willing to accept being demoted to captain if that makes this pill go down easier. Well, there is but one reply you can give to that.
Sheer fucking hubris.
Is that a yes? I'm willing to take that as a yes. She is just floored at the balls on this guy who embarrassed them in that interview over a decision that had been made because it was between preserving the Federation or helping their enemies. Picard is rather peeved, and they argue, and she tells him to go home and forget about it, despite his warning that they ignore this at their peril. I must say that I can never view this scene without wistfully thinking of what could have been, because, you see, originally, and I've checked this out and confirmed it, the Admiral was supposed to be Admiral Janeway. Oh, the only thing more glorious than seeing Janeway F-bomb Picard would be the conversation that follows it. What? How dare you speak? Oh, stuff it, or I'll slap the brain damage out of you, you self-important jackhole. Well, you can just go suck an ass dick. An ass dick. Do you mean like a donkey or an actual butt that itself somehow also has a dick? Look, you know what? Forget I asked. It's just sad is what it is. Not knowing how to win an argument without throwing Shakespeare at it. Oh yeah, we all know about your arch frenemy, that closeted Loki that you convinced Starfleet was full of wimps. Yeah, thanks for that. Seeking out new life and showing how easily it can take our lunch money. And now you have the nerve to come into my office dressed like a hotel lobby piano player after taking a crap on Starfleet and think that I would hand a ship to some half-senile old fart? You try anything like this again, Picard, and I will take your stupid French hat and stuff it so far up your ass your shit will be shaped like your fucking bald head. Now get out of here before I say something nasty. Back on the cube, aka the Borg Artifact Research Institute, work continues, and after Soji helps a new arrival get set up, they head into the orientation speech, where there's a reminder that this ship belonged to the scariest assholes in the universe, so try not to wander off or start poking things. Newbie is nervous, so Soji and Narek explain what they're doing is reclaiming the assimilated individuals. And there's no need to fear the collective, because after a disaster like the one that shut down this cube, the collective just disconnects from it and writes the whole thing off. No sense in throwing good cubes after bad, after all, especially when the Borg have squandered so many ships while messing with Janeway. I mean, it's probably just Borg policy now. Is this ship lost near Janeway? Well, forget it. They're on their own. Back at Chateau Picard, Agnes is already waiting, reading his Isaac Asimov book.
I never really cared for science fiction. I guess I just didn't get it.
Everything could be solved in a few minutes if they just bothered to use the right particle and quantum fields, ignoramuses. He asked her here in the hopes of having whatever of Maddox's work is still left that they could use as a starting point. Oh, plus the info on Daj. She was applying at the Daystrom Institute after all. And after a bit of digging, it is determined that her credentials at the university all lined up, except those credentials themselves had been forged as part of an overall identity that had been constructed 3 years ago.
Bruce Maddox?
He certainly had the ability.
Motive?
I don't know. People in the synthetic humanoid field tend to get a little secret planny.
What, people building robots, plotting in secret? Oh, that's completely unprecedented. Agnes seems to be on the same wavelength as Picard, wondering where Soji is and what she's doing. At the moment, it's cataloging the Borg drones that are being disassembled, and objecting to the species being called the Nameless.
Why do you call them the Nameless? Their species had a name, we just don't know what it was.
Yeah, but is any alternative any better, like the Forgotten or the Unknown? Does that sound nice? I mean, I've long thought the Borg need to be thought in terms of victimizers who are themselves victims, but even I don't feel the need to be this pedantic about it. The guy probably doesn't have strong feelings on it at the moment. But back to Picard, who has made his decision. He's not going to just sit in his chateau and forget about this just because Starfleet shot him down. He's going to take action.
Raffi, it's Jean-Luc. Please, don't hang up. I need your help. I need a ship.
The number you have reached is not in service. Also, this model is no longer supported. Also, Admiral Clancy has left instructions that if you tried using it, I should play the complete works of Michael Jackson as performed on the tuba. Later, Picard is forced to explain why he's planning to do this, since she thinks this is suicidal idiocy. And after explaining, she still thinks it's suicidal idiocy. But Picard says he's going, and asks that they both stay, that he's going to have to assemble his own crew, and not bring the band back together like would be expected. As he points out, putting Riker and Worf and Geordi and the others in danger risks just repeating what happened with Data, needing to watch one of them die for him. Better that strangers die, I guess. Back at Starfleet, Admiral Clancy has already told Commodore O, the head of Starfleet security, what has happened, and she passes that along to one of her underlings, Lieutenant Rizzo.
Apologies, Commodore. This is unexpected.
A dirty word. In our line of work. Perhaps the worst word of all.
Besides the N-word, of course. Everyone knows not to say Neelix. You risk summoning him like the Candyman. It's clear that both of them are deep-cover Romulan agents, the ones responsible for the attacks. And while Rizzo has already gotten Eric into contact with Soji, O thinks that she needs to be more hands-on, since they got Dodge killed before they could question her. Though personally, I would not entrust this job to someone who is named after a rat on the Muppets. And as for Picard, he takes his own first step, arriving in the California desert with a bottle of wine to talk to an old, heavily armed friend about secret Romulan plots on Earth itself. I'm not sure which gets him through the front door, though, the booze or the spies. Will she have a ship for him? We'll find out in our next episode of Star Trek Picard.
All hail the Overlord! All hail the Overlord!